So in terms of these concepts of genetic personalized cancer vaccines, number one, it's an idea that has been floated and aggressively pursued my entire career. That's pushing on 40 years. Okay, this is not any new brilliant breakthrough. What they've done is they've thrown in the new sexy words AI and mRNA, but it's really the same dog. And this dog won't hunt. It's happened again and again and again. The problem is that when you develop cancer, cancer is basically kept under control by your immune system. We all develop what we could call small cancers throughout our lives. If you and I being, I don't know what you define your gender as, but for me, it's he, him.
Yes.
And for those of
Absolutely.
us, he, hims, and we happen to have prostates, that's something that kind of defines us. And there's other members that define us as anatomically different. But prostate is one of them. And those of us that have a prostate, if we live long enough, we will die with prostate cancer existing in that organ. That doesn't mean it's going to be the thing that kills us. It's the nature of cancer, and it's the immune system that keeps it in check. And when you develop these more aggressive metastatic cancers, typically what you have is the evolution of the cancer to somehow circumvent immune pressure. And so the real problem here is not applying some cool high-tech widget to being able to identify cancer antigens. The real problem is the relationship between our immune systems and the evolved aberrant natural cells that come from our own body that we call cancer. And if they want to apply artificial intelligence to something productive, that's what they ought to be asking about, is what is the fundamental underlying nature of cancer as it relates to immunity, and not to go chasing after, the cool, what sounds like cool, sexy stuff involving personalized cancer vaccines, which, by the way, would probably cost well into six figures and would be a great way to bankrupt the elderly yet again, as if they don't have enough ways to do that towards the end of their lives, in order to capitalize these cool new innovations that are going to be customized. This is the problem with all of the personalized medicine, frankly, right now, is that it all sounds cool and sexy, and who wouldn't want it? Who wouldn't want the attention? We're all narcissists to some extent, but it is way expensive. And by the way, the FDA, it doesn't like it very much. They put all kinds of obstacles in the way. And so a far better use of this money, if they are going to go down that rabbit hole of cancer and artificial intelligence, why don't you take that capital and put it towards advising people on better diet and avoiding toxins and healthy living? Because that is going to provide much more bang for the buck in terms of cancer prevention than any cool, sexy thing that Oracle might come up with by working with Moderna.
So I don't want to put words in your mouth. If I'm following here, it's given the resistance maybe from the FDA, given the fact that this vaccine may be cost prohibitive for many, are you saying that before we have this full-blown Maha revolution inside MAGA, just keep your powder dry? This mRNA vaccine is not likely to take off?
It is highly improbable. People have been barking up this tree for decades. And there have been some advances in terms of understanding how we can interfere with this issue of immune suppression and immune evasion that occurs in those people that have metastatic cancer. But we're a long way, despite all the efforts, from autologous genetic vaccines. This is not a new idea. It's just been tarted up with some sexy words like artificial intelligence and mRNA.
In the book Psywar, you talk about psychological warfare being used to manipulate the masses. Do you see this, regardless of whether it's going to take off or not, but the push for mRNA cancer vaccines as part of, let's say, a broader agenda for control?
I see this as Larry Ellison on the podium feeling expansive. Remember this guy, this is the bigger threat. Ellison is a transhumanist, full stop. And Trump is enamored of transhumanism. Now, that is a real issue. But this cancer vaccine thing, as I look at those videos, what it looks to me like is he got, somehow the question, maybe it was beforehand, what are you going to do for the average person using this cool new widget that you're calling Stargate? You're going to drop X number of billions into, hundreds of billions. Okay. How is this going to impact on the average American? And so he pulled this thing out of a dark place and said, oh, we're going to have customized personal cancer vaccines. I do not think this was part of a strategy. If this was part of a long-range strategy, Susie Wiles would have cut it off at the pass. This was an impromptu statement from a guy who doesn't know what he's talking about, Ellison. And he's just rambling on about something that he thinks is going to play well that sounds sexy. That's what I think happened here, is he just pulled it out of a hat and started shooting off his mouth without knowing what he's talking about, and spouting some lines that some staffer had fed him or he'd seen in some pitch from Moderna. Because remember, this is Moderna's business model. This was their core business model that failed. Okay, they were almost bankrupt before they got rescued out of oblivion by SARS-CoV-2. Now, there is something we could talk about in terms of grand conspiracies and who got the goodies and et cetera, et cetera. But I really don't think that Donald Trump has been sucked into some grand conspiracy here. I think that he is a little starstruck. He really wants artificial intelligence. It's one of his big initiatives to make America great again, to make us more competitive. It's seen as a major threat that China is the global leader in artificial intelligence. Trump has said explicitly he wants to be the global leader in artificial intelligence. I can almost guarantee that was the pitch that got these guys into the White House on the day after the election, the day after his
inauguration.
Thank you very much for that nudge. He's enamored of it. They came in and pitched him on it. And then the question came up, well, what are you going to say to the average American? How this is going to benefit from them? And I think that's how this came to pass, because it is not well thought out. And politically, it was a shot to the foot. He might as well have just taken the pistol out and done it.
Dr. Malone, a few words, if you would, on outgoing President Biden's 11th hour preemptive pardoning of Dr. Anthony Fauci.
Not just that, but the $500 million to Moderna that got jammed through the contracting process in the last minute. A whole lot of this. The key question is, are these preemptive patents or pardons going to stand? The dates are very odd. They parallel the dates with Hunter Biden. They seem to align with dates involving the Ukraine biolabs. Mm-hmm. It's just reeks of some involvement with Tony Fauci and the whole Ukraine clusterfuck. I'm choosing my words here for a general audience. And of course, there's this history of the Democrats and the outgoing Trump administration just crying rivers of tears about the possibility that Mr. Trump would do this and how that would be inappropriate. And now they apparently are all good with Joe Biden. Well, we're used to that kind of lack of integrity at this point. But the question is this going to stand? And my biggest concern, I've spoken about this on a piece roundtable the other day with OAN and Mike Benz. Think about the precedent that's just been set from an international point of view. what's just been established is that it is acceptable for all Western governments, all US allies, and throughout the world for an administrative state to act in a lawless fashion and expect that they will be given amnesty after, they will be allowed to act in a lawless fashion when they're in power, and they can expect some sort of immunity to be granted at the end because, um, Joe Biden did it. The United States did it. Why shouldn't we do it? And then there's the other angle on this in terms of international politics. We have just completely shot the whole logic of America as a bastion committed to the rule of law, and the idea that we're somehow exceptional. American exceptionalism just took a huge hit on the international stage, all because Joe Biden wanted to protect the Biden crime family and the bag holders of both genders that have been engaged in these nefarious activities. So it's just a horrible precedent. I hope it goes to the Supreme Court. What it's done is set up a situation where it's clear there has to be some constraints placed on the presidential pardon power. And what those constraints are to be determined. How is this going to be prosecuted? To be determined. It is something that is just going to tear the nation apart again, all just to protect the likes of Tony Fauci and Joe Biden's family.